plans when it comes to border security. That issue now centered on a public park in South Texas.
Members of the Texas National Guard have taken over the area, and they're refusing orders from the Biden administration to let U.S. border agents in.
National correspondent Mara Siriani is tracking this story for us this morning. Hey, Mara, good morning.
Yeah, guys, good morning. We have some new images from overnight we'll show you in just a second, but safe to say that tensions are certainly escalating between Texas state officials and the federal government. Troopers there are actually now arresting migrants in the Shelby Park area for the first time since the state took control of that area last week. So let's give you, I should pull up a map here of what we're talking about. Again, this is a Shelby Park area along the U.S.-Mexico border. The Texas National Guard has now taken over this park in the city of Eagle Pass, and their troopers have also been refusing access to Border Patrol agents. They've also put up a fence there, but this is that new video. Just before 11 o'clock last night, a spokesman with the Texas Department of Public Safety posting the images on X. See, shows migrants here being handcuffed and then hauled off by authorities with the caption, quote, "Under the authority of Governor Greg Abbott's border disaster declaration, troopers are arresting illegal immigrants for criminal trespass at Shelby Park." He goes on to say, quote, "Troopers are arresting single adult men and women," and says the state of Texas will remain proactive in curbing illegal border crossings between the ports of entry. So Lieutenant Chris Oliveira is explaining further the arrests are taking place on private land where the landowner granted the state authority to apparently make these arrests. And it all comes on the heels of the Biden administration informing the Texas state officials that they had until the end of the day Wednesday to stop blocking federal Border Patrol agents access to a 2.5-mile stretch of land along the U.S.-Mexico border, which included that stretch of land near Shelby Park where a woman and 2 children drowned last week in the Rio Grande. So Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, in a letter to Homeland Security, said the state plans to continue ignoring orders from federal officials to cease and desist. The state, like I mentioned, even putting up a fence now and has Texas National Guard members manning the fence and manning that gate, again, preventing Border Patrol agents on the federal level from doing their job. So the Biden administration says that Border Patrol should be the job of the federal government. Texas state officials say the federal government's not doing its job, so that's why they are stepping in. In the meantime, though, the Department of Justice also stepping in, filing an injunction to get the Supreme Court to intervene here and get federal agents back into the park. An appeals court, though, ordered the agents to stop removing razor wire while legal challenges played out. And again, AG Paxton last night responding to all of this in a message to federal officials. He said that Texas, quote, "will not surrender." Guys.
Right now, federal court has reversed an order that required Texas to remove floating barriers from the Rio Grande.
So it means the barricades to deter illegal immigration can remain in place at least until a hearing in May. The defeat for the Biden administration comes as the president invited congressional leaders to the White House to discover a path forward on the border. Fox 4's Blake Hansen joining us with the latest. Blake.
Yeah, Heather and Steve, there's been no agreement on a deal just yet, but some Senate leaders say they are hopeful for action as soon as next week. One of Texas's tools to combat the border crisis can remain in place for now. That after the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans reversed a December decision.
So it showed an interesting difference of opinion.
David Cole is a constitutional law attorney who has been closely following the case in front of the conservative Fifth Circuit. While a 3-judge panel had sided with the Biden administration in December, Wednesday's decision means each of the circuit's 17 judges will now take a look in May.
So it seems that a majority of the court, they may not think the panel is wrong, but they certainly have some serious questions about how the panel got there on this question of federal versus state authority at the border, and they want to thoroughly air it out. So it's going to get a lot of scrutiny in May when this goes before the full Fifth Circuit.
While legal wrangling continues over border strategy, top congressional leaders gathered at the White House for a meeting with President Biden on the border. Lawmakers have been trying to hash out a deal that would provide aid to Ukraine in exchange for policy changes on border security.
I put the chances a little bit greater than half now. And that's the first time I can say that.
Republican leadership did not strike as optimistic of a note.
We understand that there's concern about the safety, security, sovereignty of Ukraine, but the American people have those same concerns about our own domestic sovereignty and our safety and our security.
But amid recent comments from Johnson expressing skepticism about a broader immigration deal, Senate Republicans reiterated Wednesday the need to act now.
To my Republican colleagues, this is a historic moment to reform the border in a way that would give tools to the next president they don't have today and lessen the flow to take pressure off people in Texas and Arizona.
Senator Mitch McConnell and Senator Schumer said they're optimistic about the possibility of a vote as soon as next week.
On down there, not knowing who's coming across, why they're coming across, and the drug trade and the fentanyl. Anybody says that's a secure border needs to have a serious conversation with them.
Immigration is one of the top issues in Iowa. We've heard that from so many people. Some 1,200 miles north of the U.S.-Mexico border, that's where Iowa is. And it's sure to be a hot topic at the ice-cold caucuses tonight as we await a Supreme Court decision on yet another border dispute between the White House and the state of Texas. Matt Finn is live in Eagle Pass, Texas with more. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Dana. This is Shelby Park along the Rio Grande River here in Eagle Pass. Our viewers may recognize it as one of the hottest spots for illegal immigration anywhere on the southern border. And as it stands right now, Texas has seized control of this park and banned federal agents. You may recall that giant crush of illegal immigration in this very park just a few weeks ago in December. Texas Governor Abbott argues President Biden's border policies have allowed the cartels unfettered access to smuggle migrants into this park and this area. So Texas has kicked out Border Patrol agents, arguing in part that the state of Texas will do a better job deterring migrants. Now the Department of Justice and the state of Texas are battling for control of this property along the river before the Supreme Court. The Biden administration has now warned the state of Texas it must stop blocking federal agents immediately. And if it doesn't change course by Wednesday, a federal attorney warns Texas, we will refer the matter to the Department of Justice for appropriate action and consider all other options available. Also this morning, the Texas Military Department is shooting down an allegation from Democratic Congressman Henry Cuellar, who tweeted that Texas is responsible for the drowning deaths of a migrant mother and her 2 children over the weekend. Cuellar claims that Texas blocked Border Patrol from accessing the river to rescue those migrants. The Texas Military Department responding claims that Texas Military Department prevented Border Patrol from saving the lives of drowning migrants are wholly inaccurate. At the time that Border Patrol requested access, the drownings had occurred. Mexican authorities were recovering the bodies. Congressman Cuellar's allegation is gaining a lot of steam. Even the White House has weighed in, and this morning, the Texas Military Department is not taking those allegations lightly. Dana.
Matt Finn, thank you so much.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmer.
First and foremost, I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rukaha, Kodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of GMS who we learn from. Shalom to a hopeful elect preaching his word in truth and sincerity. And to you ribs, to you sisters out there learning in silence and staying in order. Shalom. Now, I brought this out because of the a lot of the conflicts going on between different states and the government and how divided this place is. And it reminded me of Matthew chapter 12. Verse 25. It says, and Yahushua knew their thoughts and said to them, every kingdom divided against itself will be ruined. This is in the NIV for edification purposes. It says, every kingdom divided against itself will be ruined, and every city or household divided against itself will not stand. If Satan drives out Satan, he is divided against himself. How then can his kingdom stand? Right? And this is what a perfect example of what's going on here. It's getting escalated to a point where the government said that they're reviewing all possible options. So when they say all possible actions, they mostly talking about military intervention. Now, mind you, the people who are in violation of this is the Texas National Guard, which is a military branch. So now we have the military is going to do what? Go against the military? Doesn't make any sense, right? They're using false pretenses, saying that the woman who drowned was supposed to have been saved by the Border Patrol, which the National Guard was blocking. But the problem with that is that they were not even in U.S. waters for them to even intervene. They were in Mexican waters. And that's where those little bobby things, those floaty things, are to prevent people from crossing. That's not our fight. We don't have a dog in this fight, so we're just exposing it for what it is. It's just a false pretense for the government to go there and have a military action against Texas because they're allowing these migrants to come in by the thousands in world record numbers, where they're taking buses, Greyhound buses. I think it was like four or six, something like that, a day. And I forgot. I think it was like, I don't even know how many people was in there, but it was a lot of people on a daily basis where they had to, pull back those numbers.
The city is seeing a new surge of migrants arriving ahead of the new year. Last night, another bus arrived at Port Authority.
The city says over 7,000 migrants have arrived here in just the last 2 weeks, and more could be coming as a new caravan approaches the border. News 4's Andrew Siff is live in Midtown with the latest on the crisis. Andrew?
Well, the latest is Mayor Eric Adams announcing today a new executive order restricting the arrival of buses. What the city is trying to do is make sure that these arriving buses only show up between 8:30 in the morning and noon, and only at Port Authority. They'll issue fines if they don't. Will it work? Remains to be seen, but we're in the midst of a near record pace of arrivals. The buses that arrived overnight at Port Authority, part of a new uptick that has even those in charge struggling to keep track of how many asylum seekers arrived in the past week.
Do you understand that we're in the middle of a surge right now? Let me start with the numbers. Last week, I think, my notes say 3,800, but I think it was more like 4,000 people that we got last week, which is kind of insane when you think about what these numbers are.
The numbers include 14 buses arriving in one night, a record since the crisis began. 7,200 asylum seekers in the past 2 weeks, and 68,000 migrants currently in city shelters.
The federal government must take responsibility and lead on this humanitarian crisis instead of leaving it for cities and localities to handle.
Mayor Eric Adams holding a virtual briefing this afternoon with the mayors of Denver and Chicago.
As buses continue to arrive in the city of Chicago and all over the country, the type of chaos that has been administered has left many of our local economies under a tremendous amount of duress.
And the surge is likely to continue, with a new caravan of thousands on the march this week from countries like Honduras and Guatemala towards Mexico and the U.S. New York City still legally obligated to provide a bed for anyone arriving here who needs one. Opening in the next few weeks, this warehouse in Gowanus, Brooklyn, set to be a 400-bed shelter for single asylum seekers. The Legal Aid Society, which is in mediation with city attorneys, trying to reach a deal on emergency shelter. These advocates for asylum seekers agree with Mayor Adams that other branches of government haven't done enough.
The federal government should be doing more. The state of New York should be doing more.
Now, I don't know what the purpose of these migrants coming to all these cities. I saw women and children in one video, but it's alleged that a lot of the portion of the people that's coming over the borders is males between the ages of, I believe it was like 19 or 20 to about 35, which is military ages. Right, I'm not implying anything, but, they could be here as a sleeper cell, right?